Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Or if it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Justin and I like motorbikes. And in this video, I'm gonna continue getting my Ducati Multistrada V4, which you see here, ready for a bit of a road trip here next week. Now, I've had a few videos on this channel. I'm not sure which ones of them have come out before I recorded this, but I put a luggage rack on, I've changed out the seat, and recently I installed some radiator and oil cooler guards. I also installed some light mounts, and in that video I said maybe we should see what goes on those light mounts, and that's what's going to happen today. So I am going to put on some multifunction driving lights, and I'd like you to come along with me. So if you're interested, if you've got a project like that coming up, or you're just curious to see what I do, stick around and stay tuned. I'm glad you're here. All right, so we're back at the workbench, and it's not just porn that comes in black paper wrappings. I mean, if porn came in black paper wrappings, I don't know. You watch it, I don't. Anyway, what's in here are some driving lights. And to be fair, they're probably not the driving lights you'd expect me to put on a $20,000 plus Ducati. And that's okay, because I didn't want to spend that money. So let me open them up and then I'll come back and we can talk about what I went with. All right, let's play with some sharp objects and get these open. And you'll see here we've got little nice nice cardboard, nice packaging here that are very much Chinese. Let's go ahead and slide them out and I'll show you what exactly we have. So these are the kind of lights that you're going to end up with if you buy from China, or in this case, Amazon. Got a wiring harness here. We'll come back because that is important. Got some mounting bolts, also important, and some amber orange in colors. Again, important, but not exactly super important for this. So these are D035. If that sounds like a Denali part number, it's probably a really bad copy of a Denali part number. But let me talk to you about what these are. So these are waterproof connected LEDs with 4 LED bulbs in them and an amber or yellowish orange amber background here in the doll part that lights up as well. So you could use them as running lights, you can use them as driving lights, you can use them as spotlights, you can use them however you like. See, they have these very handy waterproof connectors, and if we go and look at the wiring harness, we'll see that it is actually fairly extensive. All right, so we've got some mounts for our handlebars if we want to use those. Just in, we are not going to use those. Let me get this twisty tied, that's what I call them. Unwire tied, whatever. You'll see here that we have what amounts to a controller of some kind. We have our 2 driving light or 2 cable extensions, again, that are of course the opposite cable gender of the lights I would have just showed you. And then we also have our inline fused connection to our battery. And then we have 3 more bare single wires that are used for things like integrating into the power switch, the horn, or your bright lights, or your brights, sorry, so that you can control the lights based on that. And then finally, the piece de resistance, or something like that, something French, we have our controller. So got the ability to turn them on and change their mode if I wanted to do that. However, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I grab the right tool for the job is I'm going to use something else. So cut that off here. Cut that off here. Oh no, my my little Chinese light controller is no longer usable. Okay, that's all right. Now, you'll notice what I do now is I now have two, I can count, I promise, just Indiana math. Now I have 2 cables that connect to my driving lights. So, what am I going to do with these? Well, let's take a look at that next. All right, so real quickly, let's talk about LEDs, motorcycle LEDs specifically. And let me first say, if you buy Denali lights, or Lone Rider, or whatever the new bougie brand is that wants $1,100 for a set of lights, more power to you. I don't have a problem with it. I could do that too. I just have more fun trying other things out. And I found these to be very reliable lights. I have a set that are very similar to this. They don't say co-light on them, but then again, the co-lights aren't really co-lights. But I have a set of co-lights on my Husky, and we're going to do a video about those and the differences in technologies here in just a little bit on the channel. But for the purpose of this discussion, I'm not dogging on expensive motorcycle driving lights. I like them. I have had Clearwater lights. I have had Denali's previously. They're very good, also very, very expensive. So if I could do something cheaper, i.e. these, which for the pair, for everything I've just shown you, were $119 on Amazon with a coupon. They're generally $139, $140 depending on where you find them. These are 3.5-inch, multifunction, waterproof connected LED driving lights. For $120, even $140, holy crap, even $200. I could take these out, have them fail, and replace them 2 or 3 times, maybe 4, and still not be into a pair of Denali's or Lone Riders. Now, would I have to replace them if they were Denali's or Lone Riders? Maybe not. But at that point, I guess I just have to eat it. But I like doing these because, number one, they're cheap. And number 2, it's kind of fun to play with. So let me show you how I'm going to integrate these into my Multistrada. Yeah, I said it. $20,000 bike, $120 lights. Let's see what happens. All right, so we've set the lights off to the side to open up our next package of the day. And this package, if you have ever ordered from this company or ordered this type of hardware, you know what it is already. Let's go ahead and take out the receipt. Take this out and take this out, grab this, take out the Werthers because they always send Werthers. Maybe that helps, these butterscotch candies, toffees, candies, whatever's. Put the box over here. All right, so what did I get? You can probably tell because I probably didn't do this right, but this is a Hex EzCAN. This is the Hex EzCAN, this is the Como, this is for the Ducati Multistrada, as well as the Desert X. This is the extension cable kit, which I may or may not need, but for my purposes, I generally order it whenever I order one of these. And this is the Adventure sleeve, or Adventure condom, if you prefer. Now, if you've been living under a rock or in a cave, greetings rock and cave dwellers, you may not know what an EzCAN is. And we're going to talk in depth about what it does. But the EzCAN is very specifically a bike specific, generally an OEM specific, i.e. a different one for Honda versus KTM versus Husky versus Ducati versus Suzuki, etc. That allows for control of things like spotlights, like those driving lights that I just showed you and just butchered with my wire cutters there. But to understand why the EzCAN is important, we need to take a minute and understand about the devil that is CAN bus. So let's talk about CAN bus. CAN bus is a combination of 2 words, an acronym or for controller area network, and bus, which means a method of transport, in this case, the wiring on your motorcycle. For the very simple explanation, CAN bus is a way to simplify wiring on complex electronic devices that exist on today's modern motorcycles. Everyone from the Japanese to the Europeans, even some Chinese brands, and now even Harley-Davidson are using CAN bus on their systems. Ducati was the first motorcycle company to use CAN bus, although it was very simple. And BMW probably is the most well-known for using CAN bus systems in some of their GS adventure platforms. Why do we care about CAN bus? In this situation, we care about CAN bus because if we're going to add electronic devices, i.e. auxiliary lights, or turn signals, or horns, or other things that, let's face it, motorcyclists like to add to our creations, into a CAN bus environment, we could cause problems. The biggest reason for this is because the CAN bus system expects a certain amount of voltage, and doing something like replacing an incandescent bulb with an LED will change the voltage that the system gets. That will mean that it will think it's having an invalid ID, it may think that the bulb is burnt out, and may cause the system to not work as we are expecting it to. In that case, we need something like a CAN bus decoder or an integrated or an accessory manager that speaks CAN bus. That's why I'm using an EzCAN. This is also something that's worth noting. The Hex EzCAN, Denali CAN Smart, Lone Rider Bougie CAN, whatever it is called for Lone Rider, are all the same little box. They're all made by Hex Innovate, who makes the Hex EzCAN. If you want to attempt to wire in devices without a CAN bus controller on a modern motorcycle, you should know that you may end up with check engine lights or devices that do not function the way that you expect them to. So understanding CAN bus or utilizing a device like a CAN Smart or an EzCAN that understands it for you is critical to a smooth integration of your accessories. Let's get back to it. All right, so hopefully that gives you a better idea of what CAN bus is. There are better videos online. Fortnite did one as well where he tried to sell Lone Rider lights. Hey, more power to you, you gotta make money where you gotta make money. But there are other options out there as well. But because of CAN bus, because of what CAN bus does, we need a way to interact with it. And the way we do that is with something like an EzCAN. I will say that for a video about how I am being cheap with my lights, I do not cheap out when it comes to wiring them in because of CAN bus. The EzCAN, the CAN Smart, the MotoCAN, all of those, they're not cheap. But when you're dealing with a sophisticated electrical system on a sophisticated motorcycle, it makes sense to go through and use a smart system, and that's what we have here. So let's talk about it real quick. So you'll see here, we have our connection to the battery. We have our connection into the bike's ECU where we get all of our signals. This is our moneymaker. This is the tie-in. And then we have these four three-wire plugs. And these are the four circuits. These are controllable. These are buildable. We have a white circuit. We have a red circuit. We have a yellow circuit, I believe, and we have a blue circuit. And when we get into kind of the computer part, yes, there is a USB port on the back of these. If you can see that, that we will need to program, you'll see the different functionality that this brings us. So, cheap lights, expensive integration, expensive motorcycle. Does all that equal success? Well, I've done it once already on my Nord. And as I said, we'll have a video coming out at some point that explains the differences between CAN bus systems. Because I will tell you that the version of the CAN bus, or the version of the EzCAN that I have for my Norden, which I believe Hex calls the Scandies, is a little bit different than the version that I have for my Ducati, which of course is called the Como. That being said, we're definitely not to the point of wiring these, putting this in and doing anything yet. So we're going to first have to build our wiring loom, or basically make our cables EzCAN compatible. There's a reason why you buy nicer lights. A lot of them come default with the correct plugs for the EzCAN, or CAN Smart, or MotoCAN. But like I said, I like a challenge. So we're going to start with that challenge and come back and see what we come up with. This is going to get interesting. All right, so I have stripped back the first of my extension wires. And you'll see, if you can see here, if the camera will focus, it should. I have 3 wires. I have a red one, a blue one, and a black one. The red, I believe, is for the main lights, and the blue is for our orange, and our black is ground or common. Now, because I know this, I now have the ability to properly wire these into some adapters that are in the EzCAN kit. If you buy a more complex set of these lights, you'll have to do a little bit of research as to what is what. Obviously, make sure you're also heat shrinking these as you're building them. Those are some mistakes that I have made over the years that I'm going to try to avoid repeating during this project. And make sure you clean it up, because if you got to troubleshoot it, you want your wire to look as nice as it can. Luckily, the sheath, the outer sheath on these comes off pretty easily. But again, I have my 3 wires. I have the 3 functions, or the 2 functions of the light. This non-circular part, this overall part, this background part that I know is orange. And then I have my actual spotlight here, and then I've obviously got my ground. So, and I can see here, if I look here, if it focuses, that I've got 3 wires here, so that makes sense as well. So, how are we going to do this? Well, in the case of the EzCAN, what I want to do is I'm going to pull these out. I'm going to make them into 2 separate circuits, and that's actually relatively easy because I only have to have ground on one piece. So I'm actually going to turn these out and make them into two separate circuits. Maybe actually probably end up being 3 separate circuits. So I'm going to make the fog lights, or just like the regular white bright light, as one circuit. So I'm going to actually bring the two sides together. And then I'm going to have my signals be individual left and right, so I can control those. I think I'm going to use the orange piece of these lights as additional turn signals on the front of the Ducati. So we'll see how that works out. That's part of the fun of this, is that I don't 100% know what I can make these lights do. And it's kind of fun to be creative with the engineering, with the electrical stuff that I enjoy, a little bit more of the geeky part of Geek and Cycle. So yeah, we'll keep working on this, and I'll bring you back in and give you an update. All right, so we've got both of our cables stripped back. We've got our 3 individual wires. Obviously they match. If they didn't, that would be weird. It'd be very Chinese, but it would also be weird. So you can see I've left a little extra here on the wire, and I'll trim those down as we get ready to put these together. And speaking of putting these together, what we're going to put these with are these custom adapters that come with the kits for the EzCAN. See, you can make these into 3 wires if you have a need to make them into 3 wires. I do not. So see, they come pre-stripped, so I can just rip these off, and now we've got wire. Don't worry that one of them is more of a copper wire versus more of a steel or a lighter color copper, less copper content wire. That's actually pretty standard for these. It's not going to cause you any issues there. I'm sure there's some reason why you wouldn't want that, but it's not important for what we're doing here. Now, when we talk about putting things together, we're not just going to electrical tape them together. Please don't do that. In my case, what I'm going to use, and you can see these here, are these solder butt connectors. I found these to be the best option for builds like this. They are what I like. I would recommend them. The way we're going to use these is we would take an end of one of these, i.e. our red cable or our blue cable, off of one of these, or red wire or blue wire off of one of these cables. First thing we're going to do is we're going to trim it down to size here. I guess my snips are getting a little dull. And then we would put it in kind of one end of the solder butt connector. And then in this case, we'll talk about this in a second, we would put the other end of our positive terminal, or our non-grounding terminal in this case, into the other end. And the important piece of this entire setup is that both pieces of wire, both of these joints, to make a good joint, both of them need to be in the actual solder part of the joint. In this case they are, so we're all good. Now, if you think I left something out, you're 100% right. I did. And what I left out is the heat shrink. So let's talk about heat shrink for a second. I know it's all full of excitement today. So heat shrink is this rubberized plastic kind of vulcanized tube that is meant to go around and protect / make waterproof electrical connections like these solder joints. Technically, when I apply heat to that butt joint down here that we just put on, it's going to seal itself, but heat shrink over it is a best practice, and so that's what we're gonna do. All right, so real quick before we get into that, let's talk about these connectors, specifically these harnesses that we're gonna make. So you'll notice that there is one ground, the black being the ground or the common. We've got a red and we've got a blue. I believe we're gonna test this once we get these made. We're gonna make one of these and then we'll test this, so luckily there's that. So I believe that the blue is going to be for, again, the amber surround light, which I'm going to hopefully use as signaling. And I'm only going to build the amber into the orange here, which is the active pair or the active wire off of this 2-pair adapter. I am not going to connect the ground here because I'm going to connect the ground to on the main light. Or yeah, on the spotlight. So you don't have to have it both places. It would make it very difficult to have it both places. And I'm not going to try to centralize a ground. So I'm just going to have the ground on one circuit and the other one does not need it. Again, I know this because I've done this before, but just something to keep in mind as you see me doing this. So I'm gonna get this set up, get the heat gun out, and then I'll let you watch me build one of these together. It's gonna get loud here when I kick on the heat gun, but this is just a Harbor Freight, it's a Bauer heat gun. It's got multiple settings. I'm gonna go ahead and set it probably about middle of the road here. Say 3.5, 4, somewhere in there. You can kind of see the settings back here on that. And then we're gonna aim it. Like I said, it will get a little bit loud. If you think this thing is a hairdryer on steroids, you would be correct. Has three fan speeds. I just have it on the highest. And you'll see that as you move it across the butt connector, you start getting the actual plastic outside the solder to shrink up. So it holds the wires together, and then we need to heat the solder. You can also do this with a lighter. I know a lot of people that prefer to do it with lighters. I just happen to have a heat gun more readily available. You could also do it with a blowtorch. It's probably a little overkill for this. I could turn this up and have it go faster, but then it also has a chance of getting away from me, so that's my reason for not doing that. And I think we've got melting, so we'll go ahead and shut this off. All right, we'll give that a second to dry, or to cool, I should say. A little bit of both. And if there's one thing that is kind of a pain with the heat shrink tubing, especially when you're trying to apply it over, is that sometimes it does get a little hot on the actual wire. The wire itself does conduct heat, of course, so if you're unlucky, your heat shrink may not want to go across. Okay, so may have an issue with our heat shrink there. All right, so welcome back. So where I'm at now is that I've taken one of the blue butt connectors, or solder butt connectors that I have here, a little bit larger diameter than the red, and I have joined, sorry, let me zoom in there, both the black and the red wires from both of my cables together and put them in on either side with another jumper. So what that's going to do is basically make those into one circuit, because again, I believe, I may be proven wrong, but I believe that is what my main spotlight is. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the heat lamp trick on those, or the heat gun trick on those, I should say. And then we'll have one more end to build. Obviously, we need to put our other blue wire in its own circuit right there. It's feeling left out, so we need to fix that. And then once we do that, we should be good to go. All right, and again, watch out for that heat gun, because it's going to be a bit spicy for a while. All right, well, I'm going to build my last connection. Famous last words. I hope my last connection. And here we are, burnt workbench and all. As I move my heat gun off to a more or less to catch fire location. That's the term we're going to use. See, we have our joints all made. Again, like I said, this thing gets hot, so I have a little extra brown on my workbench, but it's part of it, and it makes a solid connection with these joints. And because I did not forget about it, I do have a big piece of heat shrink that once I've validated that these are behaving and working the way I want them to, I will bring back down and then shrink around these connections to make them more sealed. All right, so at this point, you'd probably be thinking, well, that's why you buy Denali's or Lone Riders or anything else that's more mainstream, you idiot, because it gives you your harness already made. You don't have to do any custom wiring. And that's true. But again, things are 120 bucks, $119.99 to be honest, or to be exact on, I guess. I could do this for a long time before I get up to that point. So, and I enjoy it. If you're not, if you don't enjoy the electrical stuff as much as I do, then by all means, buy the Lone Riders, buy the Denali's. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying they're not great lights. I'm not saying these aren't going to fail horribly. But I like a project, and it's kind of fun to see what you can do with something that maybe wasn't quite designed for the way in which you're going to use it. So, all right, let's go get the EzCAN connected to the Ducati and show you what that looks like. All right, so obviously my seats are off of the Multistrada. Go ahead and turn the wheel, or the bars here straight, I should say. And down here you'll see we have our battery, some of the hydraulics, pneumatics for the electronic suspension, and this little red and white candy cane looking plug right here, which is our connection into the onboard diagnostics, the ECU connection, call it whatever you want, but this is the controller for what we're going to plug our EzCAN into. And you can see there's quite a bit of room here to find a place to store the EzCAN. What there's not is a great way to route these cables. So that is going to be the next fun that we get to have. But first, we're going to get the EzCAN installed and get the laptop out, plug in, let it update software, plug in some lights and some harnesses and some things of that nature, and make sure that what we believe to be true about the wiring is true. And then we can deal with the yucky, not so fun bit. Yeah, I said it, yucky, not so fun bit. It's a technical term. First thing we'll do is connect our EzCAN to the battery. Fairly easy process. 2 wires, reattach our terminals. In this case, I have a battery charger that's part of this, which we are going to connect as we start working on the bike live, so we don't drain the battery, of course. Makes complete sense when you think about it. Go ahead and hook up the ground or the common to make this whole shebang live. All right, so now we have these hooked up. We can rearrange these later as we see fit. And you'll see that our EzCAN does have a little bit of power. So that's a good thing. We want that. And then we'll go ahead and connect our EzCAN to the bike's brain. And there we go. So you'll notice that once it gets connected to the bike's brain, it sees that there's no voltage and turns itself off. That's the nice thing about the EzCAN. Actually, probably the best thing about the EzCAN is that it is smart enough to stop you from being stupid. You don't have to forget to turn it off because it knows when to turn off. If you want to have your lights on for a little bit longer, kind of as parking lights, the Ducati already has those, you can do that. If you want to start certain circuits earlier or later, you can do that. We'll talk through all of that, but the EzCAN is a very intelligent piece of hardware, and that's probably why it has the price associated with it that it does, but it does some really neat things. So, all right, let me get the laptop and connect it, and I'll walk you through kind of what that process entails. All right, so I've already got the EzCAN software on here because, of course, I have an EzCAN on my Husky, my Norden. So it's wanting me to update my software. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's just a Windows 11 IBM ThinkPad laptop. It's important to note that the one that I got for the EzCAN that I ordered for the Ducati came with a USB or A and USB-C cable, which is excellent. Using USB-C here, and it works great. There you can see that I am plugged in to the EzCAN with the laptop. And now it's wanting me to register. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will be back and I'll show you what this looks like. All right, so I have finished registration. We'll get rid of my email back here. And now it's asking me if I want to update my device, and yes, I do. So it's going to update firmware now. Ignition is switched off, and our firmware upgrade is in progress. I will say, on my previous EzCAN for the Husky, and I assume it is the same on this one, you needed to have it connected to the motorcycle to do this. So you can't just plug it in to your computer at your desk, in your house, in your office, whatever, and update it and then bring it here. I needed to have it plugged into the bike in order to do that. So keep that in mind as you're going through this. All right, so it's doing its thing. We'll let it finish that and I'll come back when it's done. All right, so we have finished our update, and now we are in the interface. So you'll see here that I have my yellow, my blue, an auxiliary brake light circuit, or I should say I have my red circuit, my blue circuit, my yellow circuit, my white circuit, which we talked about. You can see we have amperage and things of that nature. We have auxiliary light 1 and 2 that are both tied into separate circuits. I don't want to do that, so here I'm going to make a change. Let's go to the red circuit. I'm just going to make this. I'm going to change the blue circuit to, I think we're going to make that our left turn signal. Make the yellow circuit our right turn signal, and we're going to make the white circuit disabled for right now. All right, so we'll see if this works. I'm going to hook up some wires and we'll come back and do a little testing. All right, so see here, I have my lights over here. I have my circuits. I have my one circuit hooked up, my yellow circuit hooked up, which, as we remember, actually it's the red circuit. That's my mistake. So we'll unplug here, plug it into our red circuit, which is where we have our fog lights. This may have to change, so I may have this configuration slightly wrong. If I do, we'll fix it, no worries. See that I can, we can do here. I'm just going to screw them together here. Okay. And then here we're going to take this other light and we'll hook that up here. They only go in one way. There we go. Screw the watertight connectors together. Actually really high quality connectors on all these lights that I've had. So that's kind of neat. It's probably going to ask me to start the bike, and when I do that it is going to get loud in here, so just beware of that. All right, did you notice that those lights came on for a little bit and then went out? You probably did. I know that I did, and that's because we got an overload. So if I click in here, we'll move you back over here to the PC, put you up a little bit, pardon me. You can click here on this little alert here, and you'll see that I have an overload. So what that tells me is that I need to fix this. So I'm going to change my fuse here. I'm going to make that a 10 amp fuse. Now, in theory, I should be able to come back here to my, see if it took my settings, which I believe it did. Diagnostics here, and now I can bring my red circuit back. And you'll see here I have, you can see my 100% intensity on my lights. Now, this is diagnostics. So I can, and the bike will turn itself off after a bit because it did not detect the key, because the key is all the way down here. The bike does not like that. So we're going to take our key and put it back in the center console. If I want, I can strobe these fog lights. So let's move you back over here to the computer. All right, so if I want here, you can see all the different things I can do. See, I can strobe when the horn's active. I can strobe on flash to pass. And I can have these turned off when the turn signal is active, which is probably a good thing. So low beam intensity, I want to set that probably for, say, 50%. High beam intensity for 100%. All right, we've got some settings in here. Let's go ahead and start the bike again and see what we get. So there's our flash to pass. Now let's figure this out. Go back into our diagnostics here. Go ahead and there's our horn. Move you over here so you can actually see those. Look away if you have a condition that would preclude you to strobes. Okay, so I may have to make these auxiliary lights. So let me go ahead and turn this off. All right, so I may have to make these auxiliary lights, which is kind of annoying. Let me go ahead and change these to auxiliary lights. It's just that easy to change. It's very simple. Okay, go ahead and apply that. Now you can see that they are on. They are not strobing right now. All right, so now they are auxiliary lights. So I think auxiliary is what I want rather than fog. I'm going to start the bike again. Again, apologies for the audio. We'll try to fix that in post. Now you'll see that I have my low beams on, and so those are going to be at about 40%. Put my high beams on, and there we go. So low beam, high beam. Here you'll see I can also set my day and night intensity as well. So, all right, so we see we have these settings here. I have to redo these. Strobe on flash to pass, inverse flashing, follow me home. Inverse flashing when hazards are active. Let's see what that does. And then if I have my flashing when hazards active, what will actually happen is that these will flash when my hazards are active. So it makes me more visible if I have to pull off from the side of the road. All this is being done through the CAN bus controller. So let me turn off my hazards. There's my horn. Makes me want to upgrade the horn on this thing, maybe at some point. Flash to pass, brights, dims or dipped. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna hook up my signals and see if I'm anywhere near close to making this work. I have my blue and my yellow hooked up. Those are my turn signals. I can have them on as running lights. I do not need them to be on as running lights. Turn signal intensity is 100%. All right, I don't know if these are gonna work or not, honestly. 100% dead honesty, I have no idea. So, hey. All right, that's all right. That's kind of cool. All right. That's kind of awesome. We guessed right. That's really cool. All right, I'm not gonna lie. I'm really happy with that. That's really kind of neat. Running the wires up front is not gonna be any fun. And don't worry, I will keep you all around for that piece as well. But I hope what I've shown you is that the EzCAN really is easy to set up. And there are multiple options in here. There are different things that we can do. So info, turn signals. So I wanna do one more thing here actually. So we're going to power this bike back on, wait for it to finish its booting sequence. Cool, now I'm curious what happens when I turn on the hazards. Cool, so I have extra hazards too. All right, there may be some wind noise in the background because I have a fan running because it's very hot in this garage, but we are moving forward with needing to run these cables, and that will be an adventure all on its own. So what I'm doing right now is finishing up the heat shrink process. You'll see I put the two individual heat shrinks on the individual cables, the left and the right as the case were, and now I'm going to get set up and move the wider heat shrink over so we can kind of encapsulate the entire setup. So let's do that, and I'll let you watch that, and then we'll come back. All right, I think that's probably about the best place for that to sit. All right, let's kick off the heat gun. And this may honestly be too wide of a diameter actually for what I'm trying to do here, but maybe not. I'm trying to burn my fingers. We'll flip it over here because it is such a big diameter piece of heat shrink. Okay. Trying to get a seal here where the individual wires are going in. That may be a bit of a fool's errand. But yeah, all right. So there we go. We have heat shrunk. We have heat shrunk our connectors. We've tested them, we know they work, and now we have heat shrink on them. So now what's left to do is run them, and I'm working on that right now. So when I have something worthwhile to show you, I will bring that back in. All right, so that has escalated quickly. There's the tank surround off the bike. There's some side panels. There's the iconic silver Multistrada V4S logo panels. And here's the bike. Oh, the joys of running cables from the mid bike to the front of bike. Now, if I did this 100% correctly, I should probably run them under the tank. I'm going to tell you something I'm not going to be doing, and that's going to be running them under the tank. I don't think it's going to matter a whole heck of a lot. And I'm not terribly worried about doing that. So I am going to run them over the top or on the side of the tank because I believe there's enough clearance to do so. And I think that will allow me the easiest way to connect up these lights when we're all said and done. So that's where we're at. I didn't expect to have the bike this far apart, if I'm being honest with you, to do this. So you live, you learn. With the Husky sitting over there, it was very easy. With the Ducati, it was very Ducati-like and not all that easy at all. But we'll get there, we'll get it put together, we'll get it everything installed, we'll get it put back together, and it'll be good as new. So, all right, well, it's the second day of the let's install auxiliary lights on the Multistrada saga, and I probably needed some sleep last night, so I got some, and now I am putting the bike back together. Let me flip you around here and I'll show you where we're at. All right, so here we have our Hex EzCAN, we've got our wiring. You'll notice it's not running over the top of the tank. Spoiler alert, or you might have seen it in the text earlier in this video, that didn't work. So I've actually got it running right here. I need to neaten it up a little bit, and I will do that here shortly, but I think that's going to be my best bet if I don't want to take the tank off, which I do not. In other news, this side panel was the absolute devil to get back on, and I spent way more time than I'm proud of working on that. That being said, the other side panel took me all of 35 seconds to put on, and I'm not really sure why, but either way, it's coming back together. So I've got a few more parts to put together, and then we can hook the lights up and see how she looks in her full guise. So I'll bring you back. All right. Well, apart from putting the seats and such back on, the bike is done. Here you see we have our new, not Colite Chinesium multifunction LEDs. I'll give you a little demo of what they look like installed now. But the rest of the reassembly of the bike went well. Mounting the lights, those are again our Denali mounts, went very, very smoothly. If you happen to have Evotech radiator guards or oil cooler guard on your Multistrada, this is a 2024, and you want to use those Denali mounts, I have a video that may or may not be out when this one comes out talking about installing those guards, which I had to uninstall and reinstall in this process as well, so that was fun. But let that be a lesson. You can use them, you just have to get rid of the cross piece that Denali includes and just use the kind of the radiator or the oil cooler guard as your cross piece. You need to still put the adventure condom, adventure sleeve, whatever Hex calls it, under on the actual unit itself. It's solid state, so you're not going to damage it. These things have been through far more hell than I'm ever going to give it, but I like it just to keep it from getting dinged up as if it bounces around. Other than that, maybe a little bit more neatening up, but it looks pretty good to me. All right, let me set you up so you can watch, and I'll give you a little bit of a demo. All right, so I'm gonna flip the bike on here. It's gonna get a little bit loud, but that'll be all right. All right, so here you go. We have our low beam lights on with the standard lights off of the motorcycle. It's a good match in the color tones, which is always nice. If I flip to high here, you see you get a lot of light. My apologies for blinding you. And if I flash to pass, I get a little bit of love here from the strobing effect on those lights. Here are my hazards, or four-ways, depending on the vernacular you prefer. I'm actually really happy about that. I like the white and the orange light, or white and the amber light going together during that process. I think it really makes it stand out. So very happy with that. Turn those off. And I know it wasn't on film, so believe me if you wish, but I did get these plugged in right the first time. And so my left does match my left blinker. Again, more visibility when you're turning. The Ducati turn signals on the Multi they're really cool. I like them. I like not having stocks out the side here, but they're a little interesting. So I think this definitely gives more to them. And of course, here's the left. I'm going to try the horn, which does strobe the lights, but the horn is possibly dead right now. So there's that. Not awesome. Let me flip off the turn signal there. And yeah, I'm very happy with how these turned out. Let me shut the bike off, and we'll wrap up the video and put this thing to bed. All right, so real quick, Admittedly, this was filmed after I finished doing the light install you would have just watched, but I wanted to show you another piece that I added light-wise and I'm controlling via the EzCAN. So I'm gonna flip the bike on, just gonna turn it on to the battery, and you'll see that I have lights on either side of my license plate, my number plate. And if I press the brake lever, you'll see that they flash as well as illuminate along with the regular brake light on the bike. I have them on what they call California flash mode, where they flash 3 or 4 times and then stay steady. You can also have them on constant flash. I'm just doing that California mode because I thought that was enough. I may change it at some point. It's just a configuration within the EzCAN. These are from a company called Kamimoto. I found them on Amazon. I think they were either $40 or $60. They came as 2 separate pieces, and I did some combining of those 2 wires. They could also be used as turn signals. I didn't feel like adding them as turn signals because I didn't want red signals on the back. I may eventually do that, but for the time being, I have them just as additional brake lights. I ran them into the EzCAN, configured the EzCAN circuit as a brake light, set the flashing, set the emergency stopping, and that was as easy as that. I had to get slightly creative in as far as getting them to mount on the Ducati license plate holder because they have this side mount license plate light, but in the end, they're on there, they work, and I just returned from a 1,000-mile trip on this bike. There'll be a video regarding that trip and talking about some of these accessories that will kind of go into how they worked. And the short story is they work great. They add some visibility, and yeah, helping drivers that are generally distracted see you a little bit easier is one of the main reasons for adding, I think, auxiliary lights to your machine. And that's why I added these. So another nice cheap solution if you're willing to wire. There are obviously more expensive solutions that come pre-wired with the connectors you need, but this works. So I wanted to show you these as part of this video. All right, let's go back and finish this one out. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up relatively quickly. I look much more disheveled now than I did before. It's very hot in this garage. I generally have a fan running, but it messes with the audio quite a bit, so I'm obviously not doing that right now. But yeah, so in summary, these are $119 with coupon, $130 I think without Amazon lights. I'll post a link in the description of this video. This is not me telling you to buy these instead of Denali's or Lone Riders or whatever Cyclops has or whatever a bike thing sells. These are all very, very good quality lights, and if that's what you want, then go for it. What I'm telling you is there are other options. Does it take a little bit of electrical? Yeah, a little bit. Luckily, I have those solder butt connectors, heat gun, all that stuff, but I got it because I was trying to do a lot of that on my Norden at first, and so it made it easier to do this one. The one constant between the 2 builds is the Hex EzCAN, and I'm going to be doing a video here in the coming weeks regarding the differences because not all CAN bus is created equal, and we'll see that when we start talking about the differences between the 901 and my Multistrada. So yeah, I mean, it is possible to take cheap lights and put them on an expensive system like the EzCAN. I have probably $300 in the EzCAN because I buy the extension cable kit whether I need it or not, generally, just in case. And then I have 100 and, like I said, 20 bucks thanks to Prime on these lights. These are these D035, so these are the 3.5-inch lights. And as long as you're willing to do a little bit of homework and figure out what lights, what wires in the connectors do what, you can definitely build your own setup just like this. And between you and me, I think the EzCAN setup looks a whole lot better than what you get in the box with these lights. So I'm pretty happy about it. If this video was interesting, if it gave you something, if you got some entertainment, some enjoyment, some information, please consider giving it a like. It really does help, probably even more than you think. If you're curious what else we got going on, including trips on these bikes where we actually use this technology that we're putting in here, then give it a follow, subscribe, whatever they call it these days. It costs you nothing, and I will always do my very best to earn your very valuable YouTube time. I consume probably a more so than is healthy amount of YouTube content. This is how I give back. Though the production quality is probably not awesome, there are those who do it much better. I'm looking for ways to improve all the time. So if you have some constructive criticism, comments, questions, whatever, leave them below. I would be more than happy to have a dialogue with you. Let's have a conversation. It's fun to talk to people that are passionate about motorcycling just like I am. If it is conducive to ride where you are, it's beautiful here. It's humid. It's super hot and humid, but it is beautiful. Try to go out and take one of these machines out at least, maybe more than one, and put some miles on it. But if it's conducive to ride where you are, please go out and do so safely, and I will see you in the next one.